just that.
Just, I had to fight the intrusive urge to just yell something obscene.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna edit it, so
Same here,
I
buddy.
can cut
I
out
know,
the
I know.
cut
Every
out the
time.
opening. Cut out the opening. I mean, it depends.
Yeah, your fucking your show notes right here on the side. Cut out the beginning.
Yeah, about to say, it'll say like "Holy fucking shit!" Cut out the beginning. Do not forget.
Do not forget. Eternal cancel.
Oh, God. Oh.
Oh man. Okay.
All right.
All right. Serious.
Hey, I'm Mike. Welcome to the Retro Boost podcast, where no one is serious. We're here to have a good time. All right. Joining me today, got Tori. We got also returning from our podcast about God, what did we talk about? Our favorite actors. We got Chris Ios and Mike Crushtonbox back once more on the show. Glad to have you all here. We are actually doing like an actual podcast kind of for once. A lot of everything that we do is like very pointed, like we have a goal kind of going into it, and this is more of like a just discussion thing. Multiple little topics planned out. It's going to be fun. We're going to go over some DC Universe stuff, some thoughts on some of the Batman confusion and like Robert Pattinson drama and weirdness, and then just like some random stuff toward the end. So let's get into it. Superman is coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had a trailer come out
Oh, good.
for
So good.
James, for James Gunn's first, like, it's his first like real thing where he's headed it from beginning to end. Super excited about that. However, we're going to talk about the trailer. Mike, we're going to start with you. You watched the trailer. What were your thoughts? Excited? Did you think it was terrible? What's kind of your thoughts on that trailer?
Alright.
I think it looks pretty cool. I'm glad that it's like a different tone than the previous Zack Snyder Superman movies, where he's kind of like dark and brooding or whatever. I feel like it should be more like kind of lighter in a sense. Obviously, there's some stuff that goes down in the trailer, but like in terms of the overall tone of it, it just has a much more sort of like hopeful type of tone, and it's like more colorful. And I think it'll be more like what you see from Superman in some of the animated movies and stuff like that, where he's just more of like a heroic character versus just, I don't know, there wasn't like a lot of difference between like Batman and Superman in the Zack Snyder movies, like in terms of like their overall sort of brooding nature. So it was like, I don't know, I'm just excited about it being like different, and I'm actually most intrigued by the dog, to be honest. Like I want to see like what he does with that character.
You watch so much of the DC animated. I know it was just that one arc that you watched, but it was what, like 20-something movie, and Crypto never makes an appearance.
Not that I recall. No, I don't
Wow.
think so.
Crypto's not in the that string, the DC animated universe. He's not in there.
Yeah, I watched
Okay.
this trailer and I didn't expect to see Crypto like at all. You know, to be honest with you, I had absolutely no idea, and I was pleasantly surprised. And it's been really cool to see the internet kind of take him and use that as a way to get excited about the film. You've seen all these memes and reels about how, like, if they hurt that dog, they can do anything they want. But if they hurt that dog, and I think that
Yeah.
stuff's great.
They can't hurt
Well,
that
yeah.
dog. He's Kryptonian.
James Gunn said too, I think he's not necessarily, I might be getting this wrong, but he's not necessarily always a good boy, basically.
He did say that, yeah. Yeah, he said he's not. He said he kind of built the interpretation of what we're going to see in this film based off of his own dog, which I think is super cool.
I
Yeah.
think the dog is all CG, I believe. I think I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I can
looked
see
like
that.
it.
It's pretty good though.
Were there any highlights from the trailer that kind of stuck with you?
Well, I'm really interested to see, obviously, like the setup at the beginning, like like what's happening there. I'm interested to see Lex Luthor. I think he looks interesting, and I'm interested in all the side characters, like that version of Green Lantern. I don't really know much about, other than his awesome haircut, and he just looks like a cool dude, you know. And Hawk Girl's cool. She's in a couple of the animated movies, so kind of familiar with that one. I'm curious who the robot character is that he's like holding its hand, and yeah, I don't know. It just has a lot of and I guess Lois and him know each other already, like, or she knows he's Superman or whatever at this point. So I think that's
this
pretty
is not
cool.
I think they made it clear this is not an origin story movie, right?
No,
Yeah,
it's not.
yeah.
I actually really like that.
So I
origin stories.
talked to Mike about that a little bit, and personally, I feel like origin stories are kind of important because we get to see the character grow. But I also understand that like we've seen these films before, so let's skip to the good stuff, and I understand that strategy as well. Chris, trailer, what do you think?
Dude, honestly, this screenshot actually reminded me of something I haven't been able to pinpoint until now. This screenshot and a lot of the kind of vibe from the movie, the trailer at least, it's giving a lot of like very Lois and Clark 90s Superman Dean Cain, Dean Cain Superman vibes. With that sort of like, this shot looks like it could be made for TV in that sort of whimsy that made for TV stuff has, if that makes sense.
No, I know what you're saying for sure.
And I mean, I know enough weird lore about Superman to know that I don't know anything about like the actual storylines and everything like that. Had no idea who Mr. Terrific? Never heard of that character.
Me either.
But very, very excited to kind of see where that is, because the character design by itself was really cool. And I guess also still had that sort of like made for TV kind of look to it that a lot of TV shows will get, because they're forced to do a lot of practical effects. And I remember we were talking this ages ago, like when I think I first found out that there was going to be a new Superman movie. Like Evans posted something in our group chat where we were talking about all of the practical effects that are going into this, and it was the, I guess, superhero landing that Clark does. I think we got a shot of that in the trailer. And they're like, no, like obviously he doesn't slam into the ground, in real life, but like they did that shot for real. And that's kind of what it's giving me a lot of, is that era of kind of the superhero world that was forced to be practical on film rather than just relying exclusively on CG. And obviously there's going to be a lot of that, because it's from what I've seen from watching channels like Corridor and things like that, the trade-off of special effects versus visual effects at this point, like practical versus computer generated, at this point is really about, with the money we want to spend, what's going to make it look the best.
Yeah.
For projects that actually factor in a lot of that things. There are a lot of projects that are just like, we'll fix it in post, this, that, or the other. The director has vision and they don't want to take the time to create it on set. They'll just create it in the editing bay, which I get. There's not a wrong way to make a film. But I like this sort of return to practical, like the particle effects from where Soups is. It looks like he's like slow motion with his cape flown out behind him in front of what looked like a car crash kind of thing. A lot of that looked like it was done practically.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the effects on screen, the way we're kind of shown his presence in the world, really feels natural. And I really like that. We were talking the other day about this. Everything is just green screens with, you know, nanotech suits so they can showcase the hero faces that they're paying for. And, you know, obviously Clark doesn't really wear a mask. He literally takes off the glasses to become Superman. So, like, there's not a lot of hiding behind something like that. But yeah, he styles his hair better.
Yeah.
He keeps gel on hand, apparently, because his hair is
on
like greased
hand,
back.
on hand.
Kryptonian gel.
Yeah, Kryptonian gel. But no, obviously, I think there's going to be a lot of, you know, computer generated like special effects for this movie. I don't really know that you could have. This is slated in what, June 2025?
July 11th.
July 11th.
So
July
I mean,
11th, counting the days.
realistically, filming is probably done or next to done.
It is.
Yeah, it's gotta be done.
I've been tracking the whole.
So-
So Gunn's been updating us on the whole process. So they were in like they had like the big celebration for when they wrapped production, and then they were doing editing.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
There was like a tweet that a lot of viral tweets, but the one that was probably the most relevant to what you're talking about is that people were like, "Why is it going to take so long to be out?" And he's like, "Because I'm letting them cook."
Yeah,
There's no
I think
crunch.
I've got to respect that.
Mhm.
And from what I've seen, I really like the look of this movie. I like that it's gonna feel. It's Superman, so there's going to be, you know, aliens and all the things that go into Superman, and people trying to fight against what is almost literally a god manifest on planet Earth, you know. But like, it just feels so real in a lot of ways. It feels like you're supposed to care about this character. And I like that because I haven't had that feeling about a superhero movie in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely know what you're saying, really, about all of that. The practical effects part, huge fan of that. I want to see as much of that as they can really do. Was there a moment in the trailer that really kind of stuck with you?
Yeah, it was the scene. It was I mean, Crypto dragging him off into the snow was cool. And then somebody was just like, "Are we not going to talk about how Crypto can fly?"
He's gonna drag him through the snow.
Like, that one was great, but like, I think it really was. It was that up close, wide shot of Superman in the middle of the chaos of whatever was exploding behind him, protecting people. I think that's like the quintessential Superman shot. The pose, it gives you the idea of who the character is, of what he's about, and just the cool, just hard shadow lines on like the S on the chest.
Mm-hmm.
I think the suit's incredible, and that was a really good display of it, because I don't think it was like the first shot that you see it in, but it was like the first like hold you get of the suit on screen. I think I'm seeing how they make Superman care about the world he lives in is what I think we're going to be seeing a lot of in this movie, and I just really freaking dig that.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, it's kind of funny because I've never really been the biggest superhero or Superman fan. I grew up like a Batman purist. That was kind of like my guy, and I just kind of stuck with that. So like Man of Steel, like I didn't see those. I didn't see. I don't think. Is there a Man of Steel 2? See, that's how like disconnected I am from that. I saw Man of Steel for the first time with Mike maybe like a year ago, and I was like shocked at how much I enjoyed that film. I haven't really seen a lot. Yeah, right.
Yeah, Batman v Superman is the next one. Yeah.
I actually walked into a theater at the last like 30 minutes of that film, and I was like, God, this is terrible. So I haven't really been the biggest fan. So this was kind of an experience for me to like kind of ignite a fandom in a superhero that I otherwise not really cared anything about. But I loved this trailer a lot. There were a lot of moments that really put me in the feels. Like I said before, I didn't expect to see Crypto at all. And if you throw some sort of like buddy canine comedic bits into this, like that's going to give it the charm that I think is going to give it a really broad appeal, right? Like everybody wants to care about a sweet dog buddy, you know? So I think that's going to help the film a lot. But for me, the two scenes that really kind of stuck with me, and Chris, you already brought up one of them, was when he jumped in front of the exploding barrels to save that little girl. Like, the great thing about that shot though is you see him move in front of it, and I think that kind of puts it into effect that he's willing to sacrifice himself to, and you know, he knows that that's not going to do anything for me, but the symbolism of his willingness, you know, to do that, kind of like the thing that we need right now in the world. And I think that the shot with the young child running towards the flag post, and you see grown adults with guns running away, and the fact that the child is running towards the post, he hugs the post, and like that, those two shots for me really put me in the feels and really got me excited for the film, where otherwise I really wouldn't have cared all that much. The side characters I have a little bit of concern about, because I felt that the what we've seen in the past from the DC I think felt a little bit rushed and forced. And one of the things that Marvel got so right way back in the day was they really took their time to like have us kind of fall in love with these characters, and the idea of all of them showing up in the same thing was like something we'd never seen before. Like the idea of that was so exciting, and I just kind of worried that throwing us into this world without an origin story and having all of these superheroes show up that we don't really have any sort of feelings for, I just kind of worried that might water down the experience a little bit. I like what I saw of all of them. Like, I have no concerns with the designs or any of that. I'm just worried that it's gonna kind of just feel like another superhero film and not like a unique experience, right?
Did you see James Gunn's Suicide Squad movie?
I did, yes.
I think,
and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Between that and like Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, like I think you can handle those ensemble casts really well. So I think if anybody can, I get your concern on that, but like I feel like if anybody can pull it off, it's going to be him. And I feel like
a really good point.
I feel like Superman's still going to be like the main focus and everything, and those characters are, you know, it's like it's not Hal Jordan, it's Guy Gardner. So it's like, you know, Wonder Woman's not in it, and Batman's not in it, and like more of the main characters will still have their own kind of things. As because I know there's like a Supergirl movie coming up with Lobo in it, and then what else is coming out for DCU?
Lanterns.
There's a Clayface movie, I think.
Yeah,
coming
that I'm excited about. That is a wonderful villain. Like, great.
But I'm curious if they'll do like the actual, you know, like from like Batman the animated series where you can turn into clay or whatever, or if it'll be like, because I think the original version of that character is just like a dude in a mask or something, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Feet of Clay is a must-watch. Part 1 and 2, Batman the animated series, great. But yeah, so you, Chris, you had brought up his presence in the world, and I think that's notable because, you know, there's one of the unique things about this character in this story is that he's willing to be hated, but it's always coming from the right place. And that scene where the can, I'm assuming it's a can, gets thrown at him right as soon as he's going in, that's the kind of stuff where like this character is willing to take the heat because he knows that he can deal with it, right? And I think that again, that just kind of speaks to the importance of this character. The way that he's written in this story is going to be really impactful from the point of view, like, how is the world going to accept him for what he is and who he is? And I think that will be really cool to see as well.
Yeah. There's not any information from the trailer as to like why this is happening. It's just we just know that it is happening, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. How does everybody feel about the shorts?
I think it's
I don't
cool.
really care. Yeah, I don't really care.
I don't mind it at all. I think the costume design is actually really cool. It's sort of like it has lines in it like the new in a collar like the New 52 suit. Yeah, I'm not sure about the S. Is that like the Kingdom Come S? Like,
sort of.
I don't know. Like Mike would probably know more than me on that, but it's not like the normal S. But I don't know. It seems like a mixture of different things. But I think the shorts actually work for it.
Yeah, I don't have any concern with it. But just to finish that, I thought the trailer was great. I've watched it so many times. I'm very excited for this film. I'm definitely going to go and see it. I want it to be really, really, really good. I've always kind of been a DC guy, so I'm excited for this new James Gunn stuff coming out. Yeah, Mike, I know you were a big fan of this trailer. Walk us through your feelings.
Which Mike?
Evans.
You know which one.
Dox me. Yeah, so
The only one that hasn't already explained his feelings on the trailer.
That's what I figured.
So I grew up watching.
Again.
I grew up watching like the Justice League animated show and like Batman Beyond and like all the various Justice League peripheral movies that have come out animated wise since. Like I've always been at my core a bigger DC fan than like a Marvel guy. In terms of engaging with Marvel, I've only ever engaged with the MCU. I've never like sought out like Marvel's animated stuff or whatever. I don't think I've seen literally any of it. So it's been tough to be like a DC fan because of how the movies have been on a curve. Like Batman's always consistently good, but they're grounded. You never get like the cool stuff. So Man of Steel was like such a treat, but that momentum like didn't continue, obviously. So I was looking forward to what this was, because when James Gunn did his Suicide Squad, it was like, oh my God, there's hope. Like it can be done. You can do like the more crazy, sillier stuff. I mean, like the kind of risks and like crazy stuff he's willing to do in his productions prior to this have been like really admirable. Like Starro the Conqueror is like the final act villain, and you got like King Shark as one of the supporting characters. Even in the Peacemaker show, stuff he did in that. So I've been really looking forward to it. The trailer did not disappoint. I was very happy with like practically everything that I saw. I like that there's kind of a return to him being this kind of like symbol of hope and inspiration, and just surmising what we're getting from the trailer, like regarding him being hated. There's also that element of whatever he's doing, like how he's doing it, that's not what the world wants, which kind of reminds me of like Superman versus the Elite, where it's like his morals and his way of doing things are kind of being tested, because like whatever the right thing to do is not what the public wants. So it's like you said, he's willing to be hated kind of stuff. Above all else though, I'm just excited to see characters that just aren't the norm be on screen. Again, I grew up with the Justice League animated show. Hawkgirl, major character. Now we get her on screen. Stuff like that, like I'm just really excited for, because it just hasn't been done. It's always just Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, rinse and repeat. Like that's all we're ever getting for like big productions from DC. And whenever they do take a slight risk and do like Green Lantern, you get the freaking Green Lantern 2011 movie. It's like they're not good. So don't waste your time.
Just don't.
It's not
Just
worth
don't.
it. It's not worth it.
Sonic 3 has a wonderful joke about
It
that
does.
movie,
It has
that
a
I
it has a
absolutely loved.
it has a genuinely funny Green Lantern joke. It's pretty fantastic. So like specifically, just like what Chris said, the moment where it looks like it's some kind of truck that has like a bunch of like oxygen canisters on it, that like the monster steps on, and thus they blow out everywhere, and he shields the little girl. I was like, love that, because one thing that we really haven't been getting a lot of in superhero movies is superheroes actually saving people on like an individual level. It's always like grand scheme. Like if we stop Thanos, we'll save billions of people that aren't on screen right now, which is fine. But like, you kind of miss this kind of stuff. The only character that's been doing that in the MCU is Spider-Man. No one else has like saved a person in God knows how long on the MCU.
Yeah, they don't care.
They don't care anymore. They're expendable.
Look, we got the multiverse now, okay? Your average person doesn't mean anything.
Nope. I really like that we're getting Mr. Terrific. That's a character that I've liked a lot. He wasn't in like a lot of the. He was in like the second half of the Justice League show. It turned into a different show called Justice League Unlimited. They expanded the cast, and he was like one of the returning regulars. Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner is going to be cool. If I remember correctly, that's like a passion thing for him, kind of like Channing Tatum doing Gambit and whatnot. Like he's wanted to do that for a while, I think. So
Yeah.
let him do it, man. Like I'm excited. Crypto is also a nice treat because as far as Crypto goes in film, I think the only like big thing that Crypto's been in was that animated League of Super Pets thing that came out during the pandemic, where he was played by Dwayne Johnson. Of course. Other than that, I can only think of two things that Crypto was in, which is one of the just like a one-off movie based off of the Superman Batman combo comics. He's like in one scene. Like it's just not a character that gets a lot of attention. So I'm excited that Crypto's going to be on the big screen, and he looked adorable. Normally, people were like initially kind of freaking out because normally Crypto's like a Labrador kind of looking breed, but I think the scruffy Crypto's way cuter.
I agree.
Yeah, he's cool looking.
Yeah, I have absolutely no concerns at all with the design. I think
One
it's
last thought too that occurred to me whilst we were watching Nosferatu. It occurred to me that everything that I've seen Nicholas Hoult in, he's always like some kind of like meek, nervous guy. So like, even when he's Hank McCoy in like the X-Men movies, he's like this reluctant, kind of scared scientist who doesn't want to be the Beast. And then like Renfield, he's like this kind of abused, meek henchman that has to, be brave and come out of his shell. And then in Nosferatu, he's terrified the entire time. The dude is great at playing these characters, but Lex Luthor, like total opposite. I'm kind of excited to see him be like, a villain, like an authoritative, like really imposing character like Lex is usually portrayed to be as.
Related, have you guys seen The Menu? Oh,
Seeing that?
Man, he plays a sort of mainish character.
Oh, I know that Ray Fiennes is in that.
Yeah, dude, it's incredible. I freaking love that movie. But he plays a lot of what you said about playing someone like meek and a bit like not necessarily soft spoken, but like doesn't really stand up for themselves and this, that, and the other. Sort of plays into a lot of that character and then evolves in a really weird way. And then, like you said, thinking about him as Lex Luthor, who is just, he sort of exudes confidence in himself, but also at the same time, he's never actually sure of himself. That's kind of his whole subplot, subtext. I think he's gonna do really, really, really well.
He's got boots
as Luthor.
He's got some boots to fill for me because the animated stuff from like 20 years ago when it was like Kevin Conroy, Tim Daly, if that's his last name's pronounced, I hope it is, and Clancy Brown, like those three playing Batman, Superman, and Lex Luthor respectively, legendary. Like people herald the Kevin Conroy Batman as they should, but it's quick to also say that his counterparts in those same shows and movies, Tim as Superman and Clancy Brown as Lex Luthor, oh my god, dude, like it's incredible. And Clancy's Lex Luthor specifically is like the greatest thing ever. Like the dude, it's everything you want Lex Luthor to be. And obviously I don't want like everything in this movie to just do what the old stuff did, but I definitely am looking forward to like a more traditional approach to Lex Luthor, because on film that hasn't always been the case. Because like we got like a very eccentric version with the Zack Snyder universe, either you love it or you hate it, and then like the Smallville show kind of made him stupid. Like he doesn't understand that his best friend is Superman for like the whole show. So, so like he's never quite been done the way you kind of expect it or want it to be on film, really. I mean, Kevin Spacey. Well, let me rewind that, I guess. So Gene Hackman was fun as Lex Luthor, but like again, it's not really necessarily what you want with the character. Kevin Spacey was all right, but like, man, Clancy Brown's Lex Luthor is just so good. So I'm hoping that we're gonna get something that rivals all that with this new cast here.
So do you have any concerns about this film? Like, what are areas where you think there could be missteps?
Hard to say. I'm not really worried at all about the ensemble angle because that's Gunn's specialty. Whether it be Guardians, Suicide Squad, Creature Commandos is an ensemble show, and the next DC show is going to be The Authority, which is also like an ensemble kind of situation. Like, he's just good at that. He also says that all those characters have something meaningful to contribute to the story. He kind of used the phrase cameo porn to describe situations where you just throw stuff in that doesn't really matter at all. Whether that means they're going to be like, deep and complex, hard to say. I think that out of everyone in the movie, as long as Superman has an arc, I'll be satisfied with whatever that arc is. I kind of hope that everyone kind of gets their moment in the sun. I just want it to be good. I mean, there's obviously the concern that it's not going to be good, and if it's not good, the entire thing falls apart. Because like, this movie is like the key here. Like, if it doesn't do well, even if it's like received well, but like bombs at the box office potentially, they're not gonna do this anymore. It's gonna be the end of it. They're just gonna give up and like do something else, and everything that we're seeing kind of coming down the line is gonna be for nothing. They'd probably finish up the existing stuff they're already knee deep into, like the what was it? Something else just entered. I think it might be Supergirl. Like, we might still get that one, but say goodbye to everything else. Like, so I just hope that it succeeds and it's good.
Well, you said character arc, and I kind of want to go in on that a little bit, because one of the things about the trailer that I really liked, like almost the most, was that you have this character that, is Superman, is faster than the speeding bullet, all this stuff. And the first shot you get in the trailer of him really, really beat up. And I think that kind of shows a character arc that I think we're going to get here. Like, we're going to see him make mistakes. We're going to see him grow from his challenges. And I think when you have a character that has some of the traits that Superman has, you have concerns that, like, we're just not going to see any of that. So I think it was a really, really smart idea to kind of have that image be one of the first ones that we see, because we all thought it, like, who did this? Like, who made him look like this? Because whoever it was,
could
like,
do this to Superman.
How did we get here? And I think that was, a really smart way to structure the trailer in a way where fans immediately ask, whoa, how did we get here?
And it also, like, on like a subconscious level, automatically endears you to the character.
Yes.
Like, you're concerned for Superman, Clark, Kal-El, like whoever, because it's such a ubiquitous character. When you see him in this first instance, that you find him in this new setting, completely vulnerable and broken, that question of who did this, and is quickly followed with the realization that you care.
Yes.
And I think that's really cool. And that's not something that we've gotten in a long time.
Well, and a trait of a good character arc is someone who's willing to ask for help. And the first thing that he does is ask for the help of his dog, which everybody will get on board with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think that's also a clue about the relationships that he has with the people in that world, because it makes me feel like he's kind of an outsider at that point. Like, for all we know, we're going to have like an already established Justice League or something like that. Because it seems like Hawkgirl and Guy are together in some capacity. I mean, they're shown in the same frame. kind of walking in that building, the Stag Industries building in the trailer. So like maybe Crypto at that point is the only person he can call. Like it's hard to say. I do like the idea of an injured Superman because I feel like, you know, the Christopher Reeve era like really kind of galvanized the whole he's absolutely perfect kind of thing that everyone kind of gets in their head. Like, you know, you just can't hurt this guy. Nothing can hurt him. So the challenges and obstacles that the Christopher Reeve Superman has to endure are about the people around him, not himself. With the exception of like the fourth one, because oh my god. But you know, it's like, oh my gosh, I couldn't save Lois Lane from this landslide. Like, you know, oops. But like, you know, he himself could go under the continents and like fix an earthquake with his bare hands. So like,
Oh shucks.
they made that mistake.
Golly gee willikers, Batman.
They kept that up with like the Brandon Routh one in 2006, like the reboots to those. Like once again, like nothing can hurt the guy. You know, you got bullets like bouncing off his eyeballs and stuff. And like they write themselves into corners with that because they're like, okay, so oh my gosh, kryptonite's his one weakness, and like Lex Luthor stabs him with their kryptonite shiv, and oh man, he's gonna die. Kryptonite's his big thing, but suddenly he just can lift a continent made of kryptonite. It's okay for that moment because it has to be okay. So it's like they get themselves into dumb scenarios, and in my mind, I'm like, you can just hurt him, like just have him get hurt, because the animated series had him get knocked on his butt all the time. Like if it's a strong enough dude, he can be injured. That's the whole crux of the Doomsday storyline. Is like it is possible to hurt the guy. How
they
you
did have I think it was Superman 2 because they had Zod in them and they beat him up, right? And then
with no like
also,
visible injury though. Like
well, yeah, true.
No, they end that fight by threatening the civilians again. It's other people. Like it can't be him. Yeah. That's the weird thing. Even in the Zack Snyder one, they were just kind of punching each other with no seemingly like. He snapped his neck. He couldn't bludgeon the guy to death. He had to crack his neck. Like, it's just weird. The animated stuff has portrayed the idea of injuring Superman pretty well here and there. So, obviously, this movie's going there, which I'm a fan of.
They wrote around that, I think, and I think that's also Superman 2, where he like gives up his powers for a while.
For like a scene.
Right, but he's in that diner and he gets in a fight with that guy, and the guy beats the crap out of him or whatever. So. But yeah, he's like human at that point.
That movie's pacing is insane. He gets his powers taken away, and then they walk. They have to walk. They walk from the North Pole to whatever that town is, and then he gets an A bar fight, gets punched in the nose, and is like, "I don't like this." He walks back to the North Pole and gets his powers back.
If only he had Crypto the Super Dog to take him back to the North Pole.
Yep,
he
if only
drug him back.
And if you watch the Donner cut, I think he does the time reversal thing again in the Donner cut, which is crazy because they did that in the first movie. And then he goes back to the bar and he beats up that guy, but he went back in time, so that doesn't make any sense at all. He's just beating up a random dude for no reason.
Yeah, the guy doesn't even know why he's
That's amazing.
That movie's insane. Rest in peace, Christopher Reeve.
Christopher Reeve himself was fantastic.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Also, this Superman has the Christopher Reeve hair thing.
The curl, yeah.
He's got the curl.
So I was gonna ask you guys about how do we feel about how Clark Kent looks. I love the design. There's the one
great design.
Different hairstyle.
Well, there's the one scene in the beginning of the trailer where he's trying to make his way through like a really congested street, and he's so tall that he just looks so out of place, and I think that kind of plays into the character that is Clark Kent, and I think that it shows that Clark Kent and Superman are like not the same guy, and I think that we want defined roles there, and I think based on what we've seen, it looks like we're gonna get that.
Yeah, I agree. I like that their hair is different. Clark has like the scruffy hair, and then I assume he keeps some kind of bottle of gel on standby to then grease his hair back as Superman.
It's what gives him the curl.
I leave you, my son, from Krypton, this hair gel. I like that they're just so visually different though, because like the challenge with that, all of the animated stuff is terrible about that because he's like a beefcake as both. Like Clark Kent is just this like super jacked guy that just wears a suit, and it's like what is going on? He's like a football player.
What is this?
The Christopher Reeve version.
You look like a superhero.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware about this, Clark, but
Yeah, but he's got the broccoli haircut. He can't be a superhero.
He's got the broccoli hair.
The Christopher Reeve one, like, kind of like held his body in a different way. Like, the scene, I think it's not the Donner cut. I think it's the regular cut when he reveals himself to Lois in Superman 2. He like you see him like stand up straight and like his posture adjusts, and like it is like a little transformation. Like there's some subtleties to it beyond the glasses. Everyone fixates on the glasses, but the Christopher Reeve one did like have a different posture and everything.
Yeah, and the way he speaks too, like his tone of voice and everything is different.
Yeah, we haven't even heard him speak, so we don't know what that's going to be like. As far as Clark versus Cal, that'll be interesting too.
Yeah, you know, her name escapes me, but I love who's playing Lois Lane. She is really good in House of Cards. She's great in that show. So I'm excited to see how that character is portrayed as well. We got a few glimpses of kind of what we can expect from the dynamic there between the two, but I'm totally okay with who's playing her, and I think she's going to do a great job. How does everybody else feel?
Yeah, I like it. I like every cast member so far.
I don't really know her from anything, but yeah, she looks cool.
Yeah,
I'm looking at her. So it's Rachel Brosnahan.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah.
Oh, I have seen The Marvelous Miss Maisel. Wait,
yeah, she's great in that show. Yeah, she is.
No, I'm thinking
of
something else, and that has Ava Green in it. I haven't seen anything that she's been in, but she's been in some big name stuff, like one of you mentioned, House of Cards, Blacklist.
Nathan Fillion, best known for Slither and nothing else.
Slither's awesome.
Slither's awesome. Isn't that James Gunn, actually?
It is.
Wow, it makes so much sense now.
That's amazing.
It's a great movie.
Slither is James Gunn without any inhibitions or people holding him back, is what that movie is.
Well, now I have to see this.
Next topic, DC related. There's been a lot of stuff coming out about future DC projects. We got like some news about like, hey, we got Lobo coming down the line for Supergirl, which is awesome. Jason Momoa is going to play him. Perfect casting. But you know what's kind of up in the air is the Batman stuff. So, go away.
What?
So we got like a lot of stuff happened in sequence. So before we kind of dig into it, here's the events. So we find out that the Batman 2 is getting delayed. It got delayed twice, I think. So it got delayed again. The second delay is the most recent one that broke the news. Simultaneous to that, the director of he might not end up being the director, we'll see, but the current director of Batman the Brave and the Bold, I know his name, it's like Anthony Fischetti, same dude that directed The Flash, the movie. He tweets out that he's like, the Brave and the Bold is gonna get pushed back because he's doing another movie in between. James Gunn then says the Batman Part 2 is getting delayed because the script isn't done yet, which like is honest, but also kind of makes Matt Reeves look bad. And then refutes that Brave and the Bold's getting delayed, even though the director is the source for that. So it's crazy. Everyone like in the midst of this is like, is this happening because they're trying to figure out if Batman 2 is just going to be swallowed up and become Brave and the Bold? Is Pattinson going to be the Batman? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, Andy Muschietti, is that what you said? That's the guy that did It Part 1 and 2. I think he did a great job.
That's the one. I probably butchered his name, but that's the one. No. Actually, I don't think that is it. Well, let me be sure. The Flash, greatest movie ever. Don't look into the actors that starred it.
Never saw it.
Andy Muschietti.
Nice. typically does a really good job. So I'm excited to see what his take on the material is for sure. But yeah, for me, like
That typically says a lot.
right.
It was like so nice. Like he typically just like,
It was really
Yeah,
phenomenal.
every now and then, I'm not so sure, but you know.
Cough, cough, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. But no, I liked Pattinson as Batman quite a bit, and I would rather them not recast that because I think that the fan base and audiences have kind of invested as him in that role, and the movie did really well. So there's clearly some sort of a spark there that we enjoyed. I do kind of share concerns about him coming from a very grounded into something that is obviously not. I'm curious to see how they figure that out, but I would be a fan of it if we saw Pattinson in James Gunn's world. I would be, yeah, I have no issue at all with kind of how that would go. It's just a shame because I think that
Mike's face. He's like about to peel his face off.
What?
Just say what? No. You can't say what. Not after those group texts.
So yeah, so that's kind of my take on it. Mike, we know you're a fan. How do you feel about it?
God.
I don't really. I mean, I'm sure they could figure it out if that's what they end up doing. I just don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think that's the way that's going to happen. I think either the Batman 2 is going to get canceled, or they'll just leave it its own thing, and then they'll just have two separate Batmans, which I don't really think there's a problem with that either, to be honest, personally. I mean, I don't know. I think audiences are smart enough at this point with all the multiverse stuff and all the different casting and all that kind of stuff. You know, they're not going to come out on the same weekend or whatever. And it's clearly like, I don't know. I just think you could have two different things. And even in like all the DC animated movies and stuff, they have, you know, all the different Earths with different versions of the characters. So if you did want to bring it in, you could do it that way. Like if they ever do like a crisis type crossover thing, then they could just say, well, that's part of the multiverse, you know. But as far as like Robert Pattinson being the Batman in like Brave and the Bold or the DCU, I just don't really think that they're even going to go that route personally.
Chris, what about you? What are your thoughts on Battinson?
Love Battinson. Rewatched the movie the other day, and yeah, just fell in love with the character, this form of Gotham. The way the story is told is amazing. It has this like really interesting combination of like neo-noir, westernish kind of feel to it. And and as much as it's not an origin story, it sort of is.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not so much the origin story of Bruce becoming Batman, but rather Batman becoming who he is to the city of Gotham. Which I think was a really cool take from Reeves to have for this, because just like Superman, we don't really need introducing to the character of Batman. But yeah, I can go on about that movie for ages. But as far as him in the DCU, if somebody could do it right now, it'd be James Gunn. But I don't know that. I just don't, because I was on the fence originally when Mike was talking about, like, I just don't feel like, you know, they could bring such a grounded character from such a grounded world into what we're shown in Superman in the trailer. Yeah. And I was initially on the fence about that, but like after rewatching it, I really don't know how they could. Like, I'm curious to see if that's the direction they choose, but kind of just mirroring what Mike said a minute ago, I think that it would almost be better to give us a different Batman or or you know what, maybe don't include him at all in this version of it. Just let him be his own thing if you're really afraid of audiences not being able to separate the two characters from each other. So like DCU Batman and then Battinson. Like just don't make one. You don't really need one necessarily. You could tell your own new and unique story. There's always a Batman surrogate that you could bring in. There are plenty of other smart billionaires in the DC, pantheon of characters that they could do cool stuff with. But like, it just feels like such a hard left into, not into, but away from what you're given in the movie of the Batman, and then where I assume things go from talking to Mike about the show, The Penguin. It just feels like a hard left away from everything they're trying to do with those characters, that this version of Gotham, this character of Batman, to throw him into a world of aliens with godlike powers just doesn't seem to add up to me. Again, if somebody could do it, it's going to be James Gunn, because he has showed us that he could put together an ensemble flick, team up movie with characters that didn't know each other 30 seconds before they met on screen, and have chemistry and have cool stories and all of that stuff. He's the only one I think who could do it, but it would be hard for me to get my head around.
I just don't really like it, the idea of it, because like that was started before James Gunn took over, and I would rather James Gunn's thing be its own thing, have its own Batman that's like developed within the context of that universe, and not something that they're shoehorning in from a different universe that just doesn't really fit with the tone that he's going for. So I don't know. I just think you let Matt Reeves at least give him one more movie. Maybe that could be why it got delayed. Maybe they're just going to do one movie instead of two or whatever, and they're like, you got to figure out how to finish it or something. I don't know. But either way, I think he also said he's just a really slow writer, which, I mean, it's been a while, so I don't know if that excuse holds up. But I don't know. I want that to just be finished. I want to see where that story goes as its own thing, and then have James Gunn's Batman and his version. And I envision his Batman being with like the gray and blue suit and everything, and like just a totally different tone than what we've seen from other versions of Batman in the movies. So, and then they kind of try to go that a little bit with Ben Affleck, but he was still, I don't know. It had the look, but again, like, Zack Snyder missing the point and all that.
Right. I mean, I would love for Matt Reeves to just kind of do his own thing and
former
either
idol.
get 2 films or 3 films. I would love that, because that would just be more stuff for us to watch.
Yeah.
It would just, I think at that point the challenge would be, how do we introduce this new Batman into what James Gunn is doing, while also doing what Matt Reeves is doing, and everything be a success, right? And I think that would be kind of the biggest challenge there. I mean, the chance for them to recast the role again, I think is cool, and more opportunities to have Willem Dafoe play the Joker. I want somebody to do that. One day they need to do that, But
he's getting a little out of Joker age range too, so like they need to do it if they're gonna do it.
Yeah, he's pretty old in Nosferatu for
Shut
sure.
Up. You stop that right now.
AI.
Sometimes you get confused on who the vampire is.
Right. Retro Boost Mike, what is your take on Battinson?
Oh, nice. It doesn't really work if you've already doxed me earlier in the same video, though.
Whoops.
No, I don't care. I've said my name before. So.
Oh yeah, but your address.
There's like a few ways I can see this playing out. So number one, I think that there is definitely a concern with the DC high-ups about like do we really want two simultaneous Batman movie franchises running at the same time? Because I don't know, even if they're like super ultra different, they could like be unintentionally competing with each other. And I think they are like literally supposed to come out the same year now because of these delays, which is like not good. That shouldn't happen. They're both slated for 2027, so like it's kind of interesting. Like, well, actually, I'm not sure if Brave and the Bold actually is. I think that was like the hypothetical timeline. It might not be that year though, but the delays seem to push them closer together than they would have been before. So I could see that being their concern as to why they're, you know, potentially trying to figure this all out, because like very very hilariously it came out that like Sony never did anything with Spider-Man in their own terrible movies because they were afraid of that exact same thing. They didn't want to have like a Sony live-action Spider-Man aside the Tom Holland one, even though the obvious solution is just to do a different Spider-Man. Just do Miguel Herrera, do Ben Reilly, do Miles Morales. Like, what? Just do something. You can do something different. You can't really do that with Batman. You can do that with Spider-Man. So I think that's concern number one. As far as like it translating, I don't know. Like, so a good example is kind of the actually kind of like the Zack Snyder thing. So like Metropolis and Man of Steel and in Batman vs Superman is like really clean and sleek looking and like a modern city. And then like when they introduce Batman, they like introduce him in this like crazy crack house that looks like it's in this like dilapidated nightmare zone. So like you can have like the gothic creepy tone exist because that's just how Gotham is. Like in a lot of the animated stuff, it's like they're crossing a dimensional barrier into this like black and white hell city, and that's just like kind of just how it is. So I'm not worried about the aesthetic translating. Now the tone of how these characters interact definitely is worth consideration because it is like a very serious noir film. So it is kind of hard to imagine the Pattinson Batman as is, just like strolling onto the Watchtower in the space to talk to Green Lantern and Superman. Like, I don't know, you might have to build to it. The only advantage I think they have is the time gap, because they could use that as like a means to be like, they weren't around back then, and it's been 7 years, and like, all you'd really have to do is have some throwaway line with Alfred being like, Master Wayne, I can think of a time a few years ago when you didn't have friends that went to space. Isn't that strange? Like, it's all you really have to do.
Oh.
No, got it.
I tried to engineer a statement that I knew would make Mike really upset. So that's what
I think there's a thread. I think there's a thread in that makes it make sense, though. It's like one of the big pulls to Superman as a character in this trailer that we've been given is his vulnerability and his willingness to be in the middle of things with everyday people. And that was one of the big focuses of the Batman. Like, that was one of the big subplots.
That's his arc. Learn hope and inspiration, not vengeance.
Exactly. And to the point of where he specifically goes out of his way, both in suit and out of suit, to save the dead mayor's son over and over and over again in the movie. Maybe it makes more sense than I want it to.
So there's parts of it that definitely do. So stuff like that, like how he kind of goes through an arc to learn to be a different kind of hero than what he was doing. Because the funny thing about that Batman is he's kind of a terrible Batman. Like it's because he's inexperienced. That's the whole point. Like he fails to like catch the Riddler. The Riddler surrenders himself. That's how that resolves. He fails to figure out that the Riddler
the Riddler's puzzle.
Yeah, like he solves it too late. And like the bombs go off. So like it's interesting. It came out years ago. It came out 20 years ago.
So on that note about how like inexperienced he is, one of the things, and I think it's in the first trailer for that film, was it does a close up on his boots, and I think one of the cool things about that is those are just work boots. Like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're like
those are-
construction
yeah,
worker
just, like,
boots.
This
steel
is very
toed
like
work
year
boots. That's
year
it.
one era Batman kind
Dude.
of things.
They're tactical
Well, that's the
boots.
thing. Like he's building the Batmobile in his garage throughout the whole
Yeah.
movie. Like you see
Yeah,
it come
it's
together,
great.
and then he drives.
Also, what a Batmobile! Oh my god!
Yeah,
Oh my god!
it's. I get.
This is
You're.
incredible.
I'm not. For me, it's not the. It's not the. Gothic
Actually, Mike, hold
aspect.
on.
You can
One
totally.
before this may sway what you're about to say. So, the final thing I'll say is, in terms of it being like a clash of Batman's realistic and this stuff is like sci-fi aliens, I will just throw it out there. The idea of a person, and I'm going to use just the Batman as the specific, but this also definitely applies to other Batman movies. It's not realistic, and it is absolutely fantasy that someone like dons a costume and engineers like a citywide plot to murder people and blow things up like that. That in itself is definitely like a fantasy aspect, and honestly, for me, it's also just not a stretch that maybe it's a slow week in Gotham, and like Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy were there the whole time and just were never shown.
I just think it comes down to like artistic intent of that series, and it had no intent of having any of that stuff. So when you take that vision and then you say, well, actually, it had superheroes, like it ruins it in my opinion.
actually.
Like that's not what he's going for in that series. And if you watch again, I know that I don't think everyone here's seen The Penguin, but like that just adds to that whole, like it's basically like The Sopranos set in Gotham, you know, like it's very grounded. Like it's impossible to imagine like superheroes existing in that world. And I get what you're saying, that there is some fantasy aspect of a dude dressing up in a suit, but they go out of their way to make it like a homemade suit, and it's just obviously kind of like an unhinged dude that's like going out and being a vigilante. And I don't know, like maybe people don't dress in a Batman suit, but there are people in real life that go out and do stuff. So it's like, I don't know, it's like I just think like the world that they've designed there and like the setting of that world, of that whole movie, it's not like that it's gothic versus like whatever. It's just sort of the tone and the intent of that universe just doesn't match with what James Gunn's doing, and the only way to make it match is to sort of retcon it, and I don't like that idea at all.
I think there's an alternate angle to that though. So, in the same way that we didn't need to be introduced to Batman with another origin story, or in this new Superman movie, we don't need to be introduced with, you know, the last moments on Krypton, you know, kind of thing, him getting sent to Earth, although him being raised as a human, the whole Jonathan Kent dying and everything. It does look like we're gonna get that. Probably gonna be a flashback, I would assume.
People are thinking it's
But,
more
like-
this time around because Jonathan's being consoled.
Yeah. Which I can see that. Like, so in the same way that we don't need that because we all know it and it's just a part of the worlds that they exist in. I think there's a way to say, okay, well, this is the world that Matt Reeves has created. This is the Gotham that Matt Reeves and the Battinson have created. How then do we make characters like Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy exist in them? And I think to a point they might have to, because it's a Batman story. They exist.
Yeah.
There's only so many non-meta human villains in Batman that are interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And they could even
that's
do
the other way that they could go. But like, at what point do we hit on those classic Batman villains because they're so integral to the Batman stories?
But that's where you differentiate like the Battinson movies from the James Gunn movies. The James Gunn movies could have Clayface made out of clay instead of a dude dressed up.
I don't know that you have to.
The James Gunn movies could have Mr. Freeze, you know, and it would work fine because he's already establishing that sort of thing can happen in that world. So, like, I don't know. It just doesn't. I don't know. I just don't see how you make the two the same. It just doesn't.
I think in a world where contact lenses can transmit live video, I think we have Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, I think
realistically.
You could probably.
I don't think that's a jump. I don't think that's a jump. I think it's more of a jump to then say Poison Ivy, but I don't think it's that far of a jump.
But you could do like, okay, there's Poison Ivy, like a lady that makes poison thing, you know, like there's that, and then there's like she can control plants, you know, like there's two completely different takes you could have on a character like that.
Yeah, for sure. Just like the version of Catwoman we got. Really, that was more of like a B-list kind of part of who she was, because the story is not really about Batman as far as what he does, just in the same way that she's not Catwoman in the way that she does what she does. It's Selina Kyle and who she is, and Bruce Wayne as Batman and who he is to the city of Gotham. So I don't think it's as far off as I initially thought.
I think that what Mike's getting at is like it's the application, because like you could definitely do like a grounded version of a lot of those characters, and it would be very distinct from like a more traditional approach to those characters, like you are likely going to see in the Gunn universe. On the other hand,
Danny DeVito's Penguin is not going to mesh in in this world. Like in the same way that Arnold is not going to mesh as Mr. Freeze.
Well, Arnold himself is. I mean, if you watch, like, if you ever, I know you said, I think you said you hadn't seen them, but the Batman, the animated series Penguin, is a totally different like take on that. You know, he's like just a really sad person. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like goofy and says one-liners and stuff.
Right.
So.
Bring back Danny DeVito.
Batman Returns rules. That's a great movie.
Dude, I love that movie. It gets some like stray bullets, and I don't
know why.
I love that movie. It's great.
Yeah.
It's similar to the first film, just blown up and way more.
It's Tim Burton like proved he could do it with the first movie, and then they were like, just do whatever you want, and he just made that.
Actually, I want to bring up a point about the Battinson. Now that you brought up the Tim Burton Batman. So Tim Burton Batman killed a lot of people. Like the whole like Batman doesn't kill goes right the F out the window with the Tim Burton Batman.
Yeah, it does.
Like, and he
Somebody made a supercut of that a while back.
And
Really
even Batman doesn't use guns. Like his Batwing had like machine guns and missiles on it. Right. However, much like the Batman, the Christopher Nolan Batman is like kind of guilty of manslaughter by blowing up the ninja clubhouse.
Clubhouse?
The Battinson Batman, when he first drives his Batmobile on the highway, that scene ends with like a tanker truck blowing up. Like 20 people definitely died in that.
That's the Penguin's fault, though.
Oh, is it?
Caused that. The Penguin caused that accident. He was trying to get away.
That is such a great chase scene. That whole sequence like blew my mind.
Absolutely incredible. Whoever was in the studio in the editing bay and was like, you know what we need to do to this last shot of Bats getting out of his car and walking up to the Penguin's car? We should turn it upside down. I hope they got a raise.
And they hold the shot too. Like they hold the shot. They don't cut.
They just hold it.
The thing that gets me about that scene, though, is yes, you're right. The Penguin 100% causes the crash, but I do find it kind of funny that he like specifically like Hot Wheels turbo boosts off like the truck as it explodes, and he's thinking he's got to be thinking to himself like, I'm going to use these corpses as a ramp.
Auto moment, and you cannot blame him for taking it. Cannot blame him for taking the Grand Theft Auto moment.
Goes, I'm driving from my car.
It's just like, because like to me, I'm always kind of used to Batman like typically, you know, will try to save lives or whatever. Like, you know, he'll kind of like Superman does. Like he'll always try to save someone's life. I just find it kind of like really silly that he's just like, well, they're all definitely dead, and like boosts over the wreck.
I mean, look, right at that point, you just gotta do what you gotta do. Okay, like I mean, you can either sit there and get blown up, or you can use the exploding truck as a ramp. You know. I mean,
but then again, it's also kind of part of his growth journey because at the end he is helping people post disaster. So I guess he had regret. He was like, You see, he sees in the news, like, 25 people died in a highway chase of Batman. He's like, oh, crap. So at the end, he's, like, helping people out.
Maybe the car's a little too aggressive.
Maybe.
Oh,
But I spent all
boy.
that time on it, so, we got to take it out a few times at least.
Just a couple
all right.
times, it'd be all right.
So, end of the story is that Battinson is perfect and there'd be no issues, and welcome to DCU.
Nah. Not gonna happen.
Your texts were really funny because
Not gonna happen.
one of your texts was just like a kind of cutoff where it was like, it's not going to be him, he's not going to be it. That's just the end of it, and like it had like a real like finality to it where it's like this conversation's done. Like he's not going to be it, and that's the end of it.
I'll go find James Gunn.
All
and
right,
make
we can
sure.
replay this. All right, in like 5 years, whenever that movie maybe comes out, and then we'll see who was right.
Hey man, 2027 is only 2 years away now.
I know, it's
I'll only
coming.
be 74 by then.
In 2 years? That's impressive.
Yeah, he did.
I look at my age.
You do. You look great. You look great.
Either
man.
way, I think it's really exciting to see kind of where this goes. I
Agreed.
think more DC films are, it's exciting. Like I said, I hope Matt Reeves gets his 3 films and James Gunn does his own thing, and that's great. I have concerns about audiences being okay with adopting someone else playing the role when it's really only been a few years since Battinson's first shot. But
Mm-hmm.
It's around 22, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
22.
Yeah.
It was like October 2022.
Right.
We'll have to see. I mean, personally, I'm kind of like right in the middle here. Like, there's a part of me that
Yeah.
definitely doesn't want like that whole thing to adapt into the DCU. Like, I can go every direction. Last topic, kind of random, but there's just been so much goofy news about this. I thought it was kind of worth having like a quick discussion on. So,
Sonic.
Sonic 3 came out and like has been doing really well. People love it and it's making a lot of money. And domestically, it's been beating Mufasa, and Disney is just losing their minds over it. So like the most recent is that a tweet by Disney shouting out Mufasa as the #1 movie in America got Twitter community noted with it's not. It's Sonic 3. And apparently they're like deleting that. Like they're removing the community notes when they get hit by them.
That's awesome. Well, that's just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
It
That
is
is
just
not
gonna
going
make
to
it
help.
worse.
So
how do they
well.
not know this stuff? Like how do you not know how the internet works at this point?
I just don't think they care. Honestly.
Yeah.
I think they're like half the people, 90% are just going to assume that we're right, and the rest are just going to be quiet about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So domestically, Sonic is at 136 million.
Yep.
And Mufasa is at 128 million.
Yeah.
Mufasa's had a
But-
tailwind to it.
Including worldwide, Mufasa is at 342 and Sonic is at 210.
Yeah, so worldwide it is
American
doing
audience
really
is
good.
like it.
It's domestic where Sonic won.
Yeah.
or,
That
or
makes-
was
well,
winning.
Which is interesting.
Mhm.
Because, Mufasa is a Disney classic IP. Disney being kind of the bread and butter of American animation, especially in the 90s when things exploded. But I think that just kind of speaks to, and counter to that is Sonic from Sega, a Japanese company, right? They're Japanese.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, wow, man, am I accidentally racist?
But Sonic, the Sonic appeal probably appeals more to like the North American audience, right?
Yeah.
Or is it even popular in Japan?
I mean, it's
It
got
just
like
it only just well the movie Elite 3 specifically only opened in Japan like 4 days ago, so it's hard to say.
oh, okay. So I guess we could,
But I mean, but
could
is
see some
Sonic,
stuff
like-
there.
Is Sonic the character? Like, is he popular in Japan, or is it like?
I'm not sure because a lot of
I'm not
Japanese
sure either,
properties
so.
are not popular in Japan compared to where they are elsewhere. Like Metroid was
Mhm.
always a big example of that.
Yeah.
Godzilla has a huge Western following.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. I genuinely don't know. I want to say yes, but it's hard to say. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mufasa too, like, isn't that, it's like the live action looking one, right? Like, is
Mhm.
it a sequel to like the live action quote unquote remake of Lion King?
Prequel,
Yeah,
but
So
it's
yeah.
that's part of your
it's
problem
a-
right there, because nobody really cared about that movie or liked it, as far as I know.
it
So,
made $1
like,
billion.
It
That's
made
the
$1 billion.
annoying
It
thing
did?
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe people were just like, oh, I remember seeing that movie when I was a kid, and took
Well,
their kids.
that was it was the beginning of the nostalgia bait era.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Of
But it's
cinema.
like,
Jungle
I've never
Book
seen.
and all that.
It seems
Mhm.
like just generally, like, just the live action remake of a animated Disney movie is like maybe not like losing popularity or whatever. So like,
I think here in the
it's a
U.S. it's pretty
sequel
obvious.
to that, and it I don't know if it was I bet you if it was like a traditionally animated sequel to Lion King, it would be a lot more successful. I think the live action looking aspect, CG aspect of it, it just isn't appealing, really.
I don't know. For me, I don't know. I think Western audiences are getting really tired of like U.S. Western. I can't really obviously speak for like UK and like Eastern Europe, let alone like Eastern countries like Japan, China, and all them. But looking at domestic releases for things like that, it seems that regardless of the format, it just happens to have been photo real CG kind of things or live action esque kind of things. American audiences seem to be pretty freaking tired of getting nostalgia baited. And I think it's really interesting in a counterpoint to seeing Sonic do so freaking well. Because even though it can technically, if you boil it down to its barest bones, fall under a quote unquote rehashing of a nostalgic title for millennials who are now the current middle aged generation.
But it doesn't feel like
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like that. Whereas everything, but a lot of the
It all-
other
so
things that fall under those categories do just feel like empty bait to get
Well,
you to buy a ticket.
It's because they've made like an actual trilogy. It's just like it's Sonic, but it's like a trilogy of it. They're not trying to be like, oh, how can we get like older audiences to come see it? Like they're just making a movie that
They're just making a movie.
written well. Yeah.
And like it has heart, and I think that's the thing, is the people buying movie tickets can see that from the first two Sonic movies, especially because those are the only ones I've seen. They see the heart that goes into making these stories come to life, and we want more of that if we're going to be in the realm of nostalgia in cinema. At least make it fresh, at least make it new, at least make it mean something to bring this back from the annals of history. And I think it's pretty clear what audiences actually want.
Well, and I think one of the things, not to get into like spoiler stuff for Sonic 3, there are two things that the film is really benefiting from. One of them it's directly responsible for, and the other I think it's indirectly benefiting from. And that first thing would be this: Sonic 3 does a lot when you look at playing to the generation that played the game. There are tons and tons of tiny little things in Sonic 3 that are directly for the fans, like people that played these games when they were kids. And a lot of film, they'll kind of miss that. And two, right now we are undoubtedly in the golden age of video games being adapted to film, and I think Sonic 3 is benefiting from that as well. But I'm just glad to see movies like do well, because that means we're going to get more of them, and I'm totally here for that.
I think the other thing too that you yourself brought up, that I experienced personally, even when I saw Sonic 3 multiple times. I was very bored that week and needed things to do. And the second time that I saw it, there was like this little kid in the same row as me, and he, when Shadow first appeared on screen, he just like jumped up and screamed, "Shadow! Oh my god!" But the thing about that was kind of funny to me was that, you know, his frame of reference for who that character is totally different than me, because Sonic has never had a lull in terms of its like media presence as a show and movie series. There's like a Netflix show. Before that, there was like a syndicated cartoon show, Sonic Boom, plus the more recent games. So it's reaching more people than just the ones who are brought in by the nostalgia factors of it. Like, this one's gonna be like Adventure 2, it's gonna have Crush 40 in it. Oh my gosh, that's when I was a kid. Like, it's more than just those people, because there's these kids that have been growing up with these characters for like as little as 5 years. That there have been multiple shows and adaptations, and that's something that Mufasa doesn't have, because even though it's a prequel to a movie that came out not even 5 years ago, it's just like a little more like generic in its overall presentation. And I really don't see kids of today having like a lot of love for the live action Lion King compared to the animated one. Those kids probably all have like the digital copies or Disney Plus streaming on loop of like the original one from the 90s, not the remake, even if they did go to the theater to see it. So I feel like it kind of fails to reach a lot of the same things that like Sonic can, and that's part of why it's not doing so well. Because even like 130 million domestically, like for a Disney, that's pretty bad. Like, that's not a big number for them.
No, it's not.
Isn't it a prequel too?
It's a
Is it
prequel.
right?
Yeah, it's all about Mufasa.
Prequels suck though, because you already know like where the character's gonna go. Like,
Yeah, if you're gonna do a
just don't-
prequel, it should be like a universe prequel where it's like what Kingsman did, where it's like this entirely different cast of characters. You don't know who's gonna live or die, whatever. Like, that's how you do it. Which is not what they're doing, obviously, because Mufasa and Scar are like the two main characters. So obviously they're gonna make it out okay.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
There are
Like,
no stakes.
you lose,
There's no stakes.
you lose the tension. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Rogue One is a really good example of
too.
how to do a prequel correctly as well.
Same
Or
idea.
or search like Andor also, because it takes place in that same time period, and it's like, who cares about Luke Skywalker? You know, like it's its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
For sure.
Absolutely. Let me switch us back here. Stand by. All right. So, closing thoughts. Definitely getting Battinson as Batman. I just got confirmed to me just now. I got a text from him. We're buds. He's like, I can't wait.
Wrong.
Can you add him to the group chat, please? I would,
Yeah.
I would like a word. I would like a word.
Oh god. Have to see how it shakes. That's a wild ride. I think the craziest part of the whole thing is how there can be a tweet from the director saying, yeah, we're gonna be like, you know, it's gonna be pushed back a bit because I'm doing another movie, and then James Gunn's like, no, it's not. He also like specifically said like, no, it's not, and like, where the hell did you hear that? Like, his tweet about that is crazy. So I'm like, there's like some actual like discourse happening behind the scenes here. We got some drama and like going on. Like, it's kind of weird.
Who told you that?
Who told you?
He
I don't
does.
really know
He's
this,
like,
but I'm
he's
Kevin
like,
Feige.
he's like accusatory. He's like, I don't know where you heard that, but it's wrong. Like, I'd probably screenshot it, but I remember seeing it. I was kind of like taken aback by it. I was like, whoa. So what to see how that plays out. And then it's pretty clear that Mufasa's going to continue to do a little bit and probably overtake Sonic, but it'll be interesting to see what its total haul ends up being, because like I said, 130 is still pretty low for Disney 3 weeks in.
Yeah.
I mean, we're past Christmas
We're about
now.
to hit the lull.
Yeah, like that's not really, it's not great. So
You're gonna get your channel demonetized.
no.
No.
Well,
Disney's watching.
yeah.
They're always watching.
That's okay. The channel doesn't like, it's not an income stream for me. It's still a hobby. It's not at the stage where it's like this isn't income. So, it's all good. You all get a cut of the pie. You get a whole like 48 cents from this that we'll divide equally.
Going to my retirement.
Small numbers. All right. Thanks for joining today. Kind of closing thoughts. What are your final thoughts? We'll go around the room. Tori, closing thoughts.
Super excited about Superman. Can't wait to see the film. I want it to be good so bad. Excited about Crypto. Yeah, I'm just excited to see James Gunn's thing. I'm just excited to see more of it. And it's good.
I too am excited for Crypto. Invest now in.
Dog.
And, what was your coin's name?
Nope.
I can't remember. You're gonna have
That's
to
okay. That's okay.
It's coming to a store near you. That's all that
Oh
matters.
no. No.
What are your closing thoughts, Mike?
I think that Superman is going to be really cool. I really can't wait to see that. And I give the whole Robert Pattinson and the DCU thing about a 0% chance of happening.
Bold statement. 0%. All right.
And I will die on this hill.
That it shall be death. Chris, closing thoughts. Also, if you act now, you can get Ball Juice token for a low entry price.
Hold it on the video. Battinson, incredible. I am stoked for Superman. I've always felt like Superman was a character that was not relatable to me as a human being. And so that's always been sort of like a barrier that I had. And this feels like a superhero character, a Superman rather, that I can relate to. And I'm very curious to see where it goes. Story. I'm here for Hawk Girl and Guy Gardner and whoever this Mr. Terrific guy is. I don't know, but they all look so freaking cool. And I'm worried but hopeful, I guess, about the merging of Battinson and DCU. Like I said, I think it goes, like we touched on it, I think it goes back to the methodology of how it's enacted rather than just the fact of it for me. Hopeful but cautious.
Fair.
Yeah, I think society needs a character like this, and I'm super excited to see it on screen, and I think it's the right time. I think there's kind of a crack in that chainmail that is the superhero kind of cinematic space. I think Marvel has dropped that bag a little bit, and I really want DC to kind of take that and run with it.
A little bit. Because I definitely will say that I do not believe in superhero fatigue. I think it's just a matter of the movies have been garbage, and people are getting tired of them not being good.
What, you didn't like Eternals?
It's boring. That one actually had. Yeah, that too.
Of all Marvel movies.
That one seemed so different when they announced it too.
It really did.
It looks, like it has a different style to it.
And then it was bad.
Just forgettable, I would say. Like, it was just sort of, I don't even remember anything that happened in it, to be honest, other than the giant thing coming out of the water at the end that they never mentioned again.
Right.
They don't need to. It's fine.
Sorry.
It's whatever.
Derailing your exit thing.
I guess final thing, we should just go ahead and do this prediction. Predictions for Captain America, the new Captain America, which is the official title, by the way. We think, basically, do we think A, critical reception, box office, we think it's going to be well received, it's going to make money. My prediction is no. I think it might be well received, but I don't think it'll do terribly well.
It'll be one of those ones that like critics love it, audiences hate it, and it makes it underperforms. Like it'll make a decent amount of money, but like it's not gonna.
Yeah.
No one will even remember that it exists in a few years.
And then the critics will blame the audience for not going.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
100%. I think it has to be played too close to the chest for them to do anything drastic that would cause a week 2 or week 3 surge. At the theater. I just don't. And it's not anything against the actors or anybody involved. They're just like Mike was said. Nobody's tired of superhero movies. They're tired of bad movies with superheroes in.
Yeah,
because a good superhero movie. I mean, we're talking about the next big superhero movie, and we're all freaking stoked about it. Nobody's tired of that. Nobody who cares about those things is tired of seeing superheroes on screen. We're tired of seeing bad movies with superheroes.
Guardians Volume 3 doing good in the middle of the Marvel pit was proof that that's not what's going on. Because it was well received and made a good chunk of change. It wasn't like a record breaker, but it did good enough to justify its existence. And it's a good
Guardians 3 and Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, so that's the other one. So the funny thing about that is it's like, oh my god, Marvel's back. I'd be like, not really though, because like that's not even really like a Marvel movie.
Tertiary
like,
titles within the Marvel umbrella.
Like, it doesn't like build anything for the MCU. Like they're saying it saved the MCU or whatever, and it's like, but it's not even really part of the MCU. And the way that it ends, theoretically, they'll never do anything with those characters again, and it won't matter. Like all the Deadpool and Wolverine did for Disney this year is like make up for all their other financial losses.
Well, the movie itself is just if you followed the whole Marvel thing from the beginning, it's just like wink wink, you know, it's just like making fun of all this stuff that people know about the MCU, which is fine. Like I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I like.
But yeah, you're right. It's not really like an MCU movie like Captain America is or whatever.
No, and Guardians isn't even either. Guardians is very standalone too.
Guardians 3, yeah, especially.
I think the Superman trailer has kind of set the tone for what audiences kind of want out of a superhero film, and I don't think that a Captain America is going to do anything to stop that.
Well, plus people just really like, I don't know, Chris Evans did such a good job with Captain America that people just love him as that character. And I mean, Anthony Mackie's great. It's just like Falcon is kind of a boring character, to be honest, and it's like turning him into Captain America. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Bucky was Captain America first in the comics before Falcon became Captain America.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure because I remember like when they first introduced him and he had like the metal arm and everything. It's like, what is that? I don't know. I just think like. Oh, also Falcon and Winter Soldier was not a good show, so that doesn't help either.
That was a really weirdly paced buddy cop thing where the cops weren't buddies.
It was also there was also like a whole subplot that was taken out of it for some reason. I can't remember why, because it had to do with like terrorists or something. I can't remember the villain sub. There's like a whole subplot that they removed from the show.
If I recall correctly, the villains were like literally terrorists in the sense that they do what terrorists do in real life.
Yeah.
And then the Falcon's like, they're not terrorists, they're misunderstood, as he stands in front of a building that they just bombed. It's kind of crazy.
Good choice.
That one also got released out of its intended order too. It was supposed to come out before the Black Widow movie, but it didn't, and it created confusion with its post-credit scene and stuff like that. There's a whole mess. It's been a disaster, so we'll see. I really don't see Captain America fixing it, but who knows? Because everything I read about this movie is not great, and apparently the test screenings were bad too. By the way,
it's gonna take like Fantastic Four needs to be really good for one. Like that needs to be good, and they need to bring in the X-Men properly and not just bring back old actors from the Fox X-Men universe. It needs to be like a new thing with its own like actors and everything. I think personally. I mean, I know everybody loves Hugh Jackman, but like, I don't know. It's such an opportunity for them to just start from scratch and do something more faithful to the comics and stuff with those characters, and to just keep bringing back the old ones just for nostalgia purposes or whatever. Like, other people can play those characters, you know, like Hugh Jackman's great, but like someone else can play Wolverine, you know, like I don't know. Hopefully they'll do that, but we'll see.
We will see indeed. So we'll see if our Captain America predictions come out on top. It'll be funny. So bye everyone. Thanks for joining us today, and we will see.
How'd you do that?
It's just me. What?
How's that work?
It was just you.
What?
Because it's an individual capture, so like there's 4 different
Oh.
captures.
How do you
I can
do
do
it?
I can do this though. I can
Oh,
Wait,
you did it.
is it? Did I not do it?
no, I mean I can
I didn't do it. Oh,
can-
now I'm sad.
All I can do is fire. I can set you all on fire. I don't have a purpose for this, but this is the thing I can do. I guess my my idea was like a talking stick kind of thing was kind of the idea here. But I've never like thought of a thing for it. The balloon thing was funny. All right, we will see.
I thought I did that. No, I'm sad.
I thought so too, and then I was like, how do you?
It's just
I wish
his
we could do
window.
stickers in this. That would be cool.
Oh my god, our nightmare.
The end of the
stickers.
video would just be stickers all across the screen.
Put them in post, I guess.
Best thing about owning an Apple phone. It's the only reason to own one.
Yeah, it's been funny. We will see you on the next one, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks everyone. See you.
Bye.